All right, guys. Good morning. Welcome into the OnlyBets Sports Podcast, Monday edition. I'm the Prince of Picks. We're having major technical difficulties this morning. Apologies to those of you who've been trying to tune in live. I know we've had about 4 or 5 links go up. Each one of them have been taken down. Not sure what's going on. We're just having major technical difficulties this morning. So apologies again. We can only do what we can on our end. We're trying everything we can to get this stream up and going. Before I continue, I just want to confirm one more time, Michael, you are on right now. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me right now, Michael? If you're not able to speak, at least just give me an emoji. Let me know that at least I'm able to be heard right now. I know Moshe and Drew are having connection issues, but if I can be heard, then we're going to go ahead and continue with the show. But I need somebody to give me some feedback and let me know if I can be heard or not. Michael, again, I know that you're a speaker. Okay, perfect. You can hear me. All right,
I can hear you.
fantastic. All right, Drew, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. All right, sounds
Let's
good.
go.
Great, guys. All right, yep. Let's do it. All right, sorry, guys. We've been messing with this for a half hour. Sent out multiple links, but we finally got it. Looks like, unfortunately, our brother Mosh is the one that's having some connection issues. So we'll choose to see if we can try to get that figured out. Hopefully, he can hop on. Otherwise, I'll give out his place here for him on the show. But it's going to be myself and Drew today, going just a double team here as we recap the weekend. Had a great weekend here of sports. Of course, we had the golf tournament. Brian, what an excellent job he did in his PGA picks. I believe he went 6-1. I know he was in the show here earlier in one of our earlier streams that got disconnected. I was hoping he would have stayed because I really wanted to get his recap on kind of how he thought the tournament went and everything, especially since he did so great, which is nothing unusual for him really, but still got to give him a shout out to that. So great job there in the PGA tournament. Of course, we also had UFC as well. I believe both did pretty well in the UFC. I would have liked to have him recap as well, but we'll deal with what we got for today, guys. Of course, a lot of action in soccer. So just the sports world in general, we're keep getting closer to the sports equinox that we keep talking about, where all the sports kind of converge at the same time. So getting excited for that. Of course, we got some of our bigger leagues in soccer starting this weekend. We got college football starting up, in I believe in a couple of weeks. And then the NFL, and then we're all systems go after that. So good times ahead. As for me and my picks, actually, Drew, I'm going to go to you first. First of all, good morning, properly. And how did you do on your picks over the weekend? How was your weekend in general?
Yeah, sorry if I cut out, of course, but I went 2-0. I hit Max Fried over 17.5 outs. He went 6.1 innings, and then the Amanda the distance, it went the distance. So overall, good day. I've been on fire with these player outs, so hope I continue.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And for myself here, a little bit of an off weekend. We finished, I believe. So I'm looking at my notes here. Looks like we were 1-2 here officially with a couple of pushes. So not the best end we wanted to the week. Last week was a little bit of a rough week in general for me, but we're starting out a new week here, and hopefully we can get things back in the right track for the picks this week. So, all right, let's go ahead and start. We'll start with Major Leagues, Drew. I don't have anything for baseball. I'm sure Mosh does. I'll give his play here in a minute, excuse me. I would have liked to hear you guys' conversation about the picks, but again, deal with what we got. But Drew, you got anything for baseball today? What's on the slate? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have something that's really good value. I know minus 149 is kind of crazy to say as something that's really good value. But Trevor Rogers over 17.5 outs, minus 149. Usually my cutoff is like minus 150. I still think it's good enough to, if you put 100, you can win like 75 or something like that, which isn't terrible at the end of the day. You put like one unit. But the reason why I'm picking this is we're talking about a guy, since he started off terrible in his ear, he's slowly bringing down his ERAs. Like 6.96 May 24th. That was 4.2. Main reason for that, he's been dominating. If you just look at his last 9 starts, he's covered this every time, 6 innings or more every single time. His last starts, look at 6. This one he didn't do 5 innings. He didn't do, but they took him out a little early. So he covered this 8 out of his last 9 starts. He's going to he's going to face a team that I believe that he can dominate, because he's been dominating quite a bit of teams already, and it's a shorter slate overall too. I think there's only like 10 games, and I know that sounds crazy, but he's facing a Twins team at the Twins. who does have a pretty good offense, but I think Trevor Rogers can be very successful because he's faced really good teams all around. You know, he's faced the Tigers, he's faced the Braves, he's faced the Cubs, and he's gone 6 innings in all of them. So give me Trevor Rogers over 17.5 outs at -149.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And like I said before, your outs over unders plays have been pretty rock solid throughout the time that you've been giving them out. So definitely an auto tilt for me. Anything else in the majors that we need to be looking for? Any thoughts or any maybe leans or anything that you have before I get into Moshe's pick?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's going to be some interesting games to watch. Other games I was looking at was the Red Sox at the Blue Jays in the Rogers Center. We have Sonny Gray on the mound, who's excellent. I mean, the Red Sox is interesting. The Blue Jays have picked up a little bit, and then another like there's quite a bit of games. There's not many aces on the mound, but as we know, certain teams are tanking, certain teams are doing well with the additions. I'm also interested in is, I mean, the Diamondbacks facing the Rockies with Michael Soroka. Diamondbacks have been on fire. They won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, I believe. And then also, they're only minus. So this is very interesting. They're -194 on the money line, but -1.5 at -200. Usually it's plus money at -105. But I expect the Diamondbacks to roll there, but nothing really else that goes my eyes. The main one is, of course, Tariq Skubal's pitching again today. It's the last game against the Royals at home. So, guys, because it's his first start at the Dodgers stadium. This first start with the Cubs, it wasn't bad. It was just overshadowed because they lost 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. I mean, like, we expect him to give up nothing, but at the end of the day, the guy's human, and that's a quality start. So it's going to be some standing enters Dodger Stadium.
Now, is he someone that we're going to want to look to back like on a regular basis, or is it more of a matchup dependent in terms of if we're going to back Scuba or not?
So, yeah, the interesting when starting pitcher, usually relievers only pitch 1 or 2 innings, but when you're starting pitcher going to a different team, you have to develop chemistry with that catcher of calling a good game, because you're pitching, when you're starting pitcher, you're pitching with them like, it's like Scoogle, 6 or 7 innings, or sometimes 5 on a bad day. But the fact that he was able to only give up 2 runs in your first start, which is very hard to do because he had to like travel, he got notified. It's the course depending on matchup. But the fact that he did so Wrigley Field, his first time pitching at Wrigley Field, makes me think he's going to transition just fine. And he has good chemistry already, it seems like, with the catchers of the Dodgers. So, yeah, that's the biggest key is the catcher's chemistry because usually they're the one that's calling the pitch. No, I don't think he's a guy that calls his own pitches.
Okay, yeah, totally makes sense. And I would imagine with him being an elite pitcher, it's probably a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but maybe a little bit smoother of a transition for him, maybe with being an elite pitcher as opposed to maybe a middle of the road pitcher. Does that have any impact at all in terms of building the chemistry, or is it just purely based on just getting to know each other? Does talent play a role into that at all, or not really?
Yeah, I would say talent plays a lot of the role into that. If you're usually really like transition to a different team, I've seen elite pitchers in the past when they go to a new team, they may necessarily struggle because certain pitch. It also depends on their ego, right? If they're willing to learn, like they're willing to get to work. Because usually sometimes when these new players, they just want to rest and stuff, and they don't want to develop the chemistry. But if you're an elite pitcher, you may be you. If you're an elite pitcher, you may not be willing to, communicate sometimes with the catcher, and it's like, hey, like these are my pitches, that's it. But it seemed like some elite pitchers like Scuba, it doesn't seem like an ego head. He wants to win. He probably talked with these catchers and these batters and stuff, probably spent hours before his pitching, like, oh, these are my top pitches. This is what I like to throw. And then it also comes with the Dodgers organization as well, too. Like, it's up to the manager. The manager studies his sheet, like, oh, what is he good at throwing and stuff. We kind of saw it with, Mason Miller for a reliever. He was really good, of course, in Oakland, but he wasn't he wasn't like completely lights out. He had the nastiest stuff ever, but the Padres studied him heavily and made sure, like, hey, you need to show the slider more and stuff. So it's basically between the team and pitcher.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. Perfect, good breakdown there. All right, cool. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how everything goes tonight in the major leagues. All right, next up, let's go ahead and switch on over to soccer. I do have some plays in soccer, so I'll just rattle them off here as we go through it. We do have a couple games this afternoon in the Netherlands ERC division. This is the second division of Netherlands soccer pyramid. Two games I'm looking at here, and I like goals in both of these games. The first one's going to be Young PSV taking on Volendam. I like over 3 goals in that one. That comes in at minus 120. We've talked about these young teams in the ERC Divisie. They're basically the youth team of the professional team, which plays in the first division, right? So Young PSV, I believe it directly translates to young. Like in English, I think it's young PSV. If you were to translate it, I'm not 100% on that. But in any case, these youth teams tend to concede a lot of goals and also score a lot of goals just because they cannot get promoted based on the rules. They're not allowed to get promoted to the first division. So there's nothing to lose for them, nothing to gain for them. So typically their games are pretty wide open. So I think that continues in this one. A young PSV, Volendam. Over 3 goals. Make sure you guys play that on the Asian total, so that if we get 3 goals exactly, you'll push. If you play any other kind of total, you might get screwed based on your book. So make sure you guys look for the Asian total over 3 goals at minus 120. And then the other game in that same division, we have Young AZ Alkmaar taking on Eindhoven. Again, I like over 3 goals in this one at minus 140 for the same exact reasons. These teams, especially Young AZ Alkmaar, they score, they concede. Their games are very wide open. So goals are tend to be a pretty common theme with both of these teams. So again, Young PSV Volendam over 3 minus 120. Young AZ Alkmaar Eindhoven over 3 at minus 140. Then I also have a couple plays for the Champions League qualifiers. They're going to be taking place tomorrow morning. We do have an 11 a.m. Eastern kickoff, which is going to happen obviously before the show takes place here. We have Levski Sofia heading over to Kairat Almaty over in Kazakhstan. Levski Sofia enter this one with a 1-0 aggregate lead on the scoreline. This is, of course, the second leg of a two-leg home and away here. I think Levski Sofia is the better side. I think Kairat was the Cinderella story of last year's Champions League, but when you're looking at this team, they're just not very good. They don't have the same qualities they had last year, and even last year they kind of got lucky to get to where they were. Looking at this first game in the first leg, Levski Sofia had 70% possession against Kairat Almaty, so they pretty much dominated the entire game against them. And I think just needing to avoid a defeat here, I think they're likely to do that. So give me Levski Sofia on a draw no bet. We're going to get that at minus 105. Then in one more game for the Champions League qualifiers, again tomorrow morning. This is going to be on Tuesday morning. We have Bodo Glimt taking on Union Saint Jawa. The first game was a thrilling 3-3 final score. Nothing new here with Bodo Glimt. Their games tend to be more high scoring. Same thing with USG. I think we're in for another high scoring game in this one. I'm going to take the over 3 once again at minus 135. We've seen Bodo Glimt games in the Champions League when they're playing in European competition. Goals, and more goals tend to be a theme with this team. So playing on that artificial turf up in the Nordic region tends to be a little bit difficult for teams going up there, and they tend to concede, I'd say, more frequently than maybe they would in other places. So I think we see 3 goals minimum in this one. Give me Bodo Glimt, USG, over 3 goals at minus 135. If Moshe were here, I would ask his opinions. He's not. Drew, I know you don't have any opinions, so let me just go straight on to my futures plays that I do have. I get 2 futures plays, bonus plays here, looking at the England Championship Division, which is basically the second division of England, right below the pyramid, or I'm sorry, right below the Premier League in the pyramid. 2 picks I'm looking at here. First one, West Ham to win the England Championship Division. That comes in at plus 175. Got that at Hard Rock Bet. Look, West Ham coming to this one significantly better than any other team in the Championship Division. They were able to retain a lot of their Premier League talent. Of course, they were relegated last season from the Premier League down to the Championship, but I think they're going to go straight back up. And I think not only are they going to go straight back up, but they're going to win this Championship Division, maybe with relative ease. Really, it's them and Wolverhampton as the top two, far and away better than the rest of the teams in the Championship Division when you're looking at their rosters. But I really like the value here. We're getting plus money on West Ham, who is by far the favorite to win this championship division. And I like that at Hard Rock, you're getting plus 175. Again, West Ham to win the England Championship plus 175 at Hard Rock. And then my final futures play is going to be the aforementioned Wolves, Wolverhampton. I like them to be promoted. This one comes in at plus 162. That's going to be your best price over at Bet 365. For the similar reasons I said about West Ham, Wolverhampton, again, another Premier League team that was relegated, but they too were able to retain a lot of their talent. And so I fully expect them to finish. If you want to play them in the top two, there's various ways you can play them. I don't think they win the division, but I think they could very well finish in the top two. But in any case, I just like them to be promoted. Maybe they finish third and have to go through a playoff system. But even in a playoff system, I like them to get promoted as well. So by any case, by any means necessary, give me Wolverhampton Wolves just to get promoted back to the EPL. And you're going to get that at plus 162. Again, that's over at Bet365. And then Drew, before I get over to, I think you have a college football future. Before I get over to that, let me just touch on Moshe's baseball play here real quick. He did have one play for today. He's going to be on the Milwaukee Brewers team total over 3.5 runs. And that one comes in at minus 115. So again, Stern Bets is on the Brewers, Milwaukee Brewers team total over 3.5 runs. And that one comes in at minus 115. All right, Drew. If you're still there with me, what are we looking at? Do you have some college football looks? I think I saw that in the group chat. We looking at college football today.
Yeah, and I like. I'll say I like Moshe's pick. The only issue I would have is because Casey Mize isn't a terrible pitcher, and he does allow a lot of hard contact. He's been very lucky, so I expect that to change. They just need to hope they don't get to Mason Miller, so I can see that happening against the Padres. But for college football, I know this is not great odds at the end of the day, but I think these are the clear two best teams in their conference. If you guys don't know, I think it's if you win your conference championship game now, that's when you get an automatic bid. I think it's not the conference anymore. I can double check that, but that's where I heard. But I like Miami, Florida, and SEC. Even with Carson Beck out, they still have high recruits, and I believe in them more than anyone else. There's a reason why they're, I think, like minus 135, and the next closest is SMU at plus 700. SEC hasn't really done much, I believe, to necessarily get better. So in that case, I really like Miami, Florida. And then the other one is Texas Tech. They're like minus 105. I think they're the clear class of the Big 12. And I don't necessarily think there's anybody that can really compete with them. What's going to hurt them a lot, the Big 12, the certain teams, the Big 12 are possibly competing with Texas Tech, is Josh Hoover, probably two best quarterbacks league. Josh Hoover left for TCU, and Sam Levitt, left to LSU from ASU, and that's going to hurt. The biggest addition in the Big 12 is Drew Messermaker going to Oklahoma State, and I expect them to do pretty well. Oklahoma State, like Northern Messermaker, is going to put up a lot of big numbers, but I don't think they'll be able to compete because their defense probably won't be to the level it should. I know concerns for Tech is losing David Bailey and Romeo and like these other guys, but they have a lot of recruits on the way. They have the highest amount of transfer portals out of the Big 12 in general. And their backup quarterback, Hammond, I think is pretty good, and I think he'll succeed. He struggled a little last year, but I think another year under the belt's going to be good because losing Baron Morton is going to hurt. But I just don't see anyone else beating them. I know people believe in BYU, especially with the freshman quarterback, Bear. So the freshman quarterback from last year, Bear. But I believe their coach left, so I don't really see I don't see anybody competing, so I like those two combined for plus 238. So Miami, Florida, and Texas Tech for plus 38 combined for conference championship games. Like, again, I know it's kind of sweaty because it's plus 238 for two teams, but I think these are the two clear best teams in the conference. I'm not confident enough in the other conference to do this kind of lay because, SEC is Georgia and Texas and LSU, in my opinion, possibly Ole Miss. Big Ten, you still have Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana to compete, and Michigan's a sleeper. So that's my take on that.
Love it. Can't wait for college football season to start. And I think we are joined again by Stern. I think he might be with us again. Stern, I'm going to bring you in. I'll defer to you for any college football takes and opinions. But any thoughts on what Drew had to say? And if you're there, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little distorted, but I can hear you. Go ahead and talk a little bit more. We'll see if we can actually hear you or not.
All right, sorry guys, the technical difficulties today are very frustrating. I can't connect to anything. For the most part, I'm on board. I haven't really looked at the college football futures all too much. I have started to get into it, but I think those are sharp takes.
Awesome, good stuff. And then since you're with us, I already gave out your play for the Brewers, team total over 3.5. Anything else in baseball that you want to talk about? By the way, just so you know, your voice is pretty distorted. I mean, we can kind of hear you, sort of little. So I don't want to say, I don't want to have an impact on you at all. But I'm just saying, maybe the shorter the better, because it's a little hard to hear you. Sorry, but go ahead,
No,
dude.
I apologize. I'll continue listening for the rest of the show. I just think that the Brewers are in a good spot. If you don't mind starting on the no run first inning as kind of a hedge against the runs, but overall, I think that this is a really good scoring opportunity. And the Padres bullpen before the ninth inning, Mason Miller, is not as good as the rest of the team. I don't necessarily expect Nice to go that long, so I think that the Brewers are going to get hit around just a little bit.
Got it. And then Drew, any thoughts on that at all of what Moch just said?
No, yeah, I definitely agree. It's all up to basically what mize we get. We get the lucky mize where he allows like hard contact, but goes straight to fielders. And it's really those people in between. I don't really believe in. Like the only two, I would say, good pitchers, like relievers, they actually have, I believe in. And I know he's struggling is Morahone and Miller, and I agree with him. Is like I don't expect mize to last that long, and I know the Brewers, I think, have history against them. But yeah, that's it for me. I like that.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, sorry, Mosh. Like I said, I'd really love to get more of your opinion, but his connection is just his voice is just super distorted. It's really hard to hear, so I don't want to, for the listeners' point, I don't want them to have to try to piece it together for 5 minutes. So apologies, dude. I really did want to get more of your opinions and everything, but maybe tomorrow we'll have a better connection for him. But yeah. So anything else, Drew, that we need to look for in the sports world? Anything maybe NFL related? Anything? To talk about in the National Football League.
Oh, can I say this real quick about Arizona? You're gonna you're gonna appreciate this, Prince. Remember I told you all this time expecting a monsoon. Yesterday was supposed to rain, and then we got one of our biggest monsoons we've had, right? And I sent a picture of the chat when I pulled into work just now, because I work from home at the end of the day, and I come to work. But there's a tree completely fallen down, and that's how Arizona works when there isn't supposed to, it happens. So I thought that was interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, exactly. It happens out of nowhere down there, so you never know exactly what kind of weather you're gonna get in Arizona. That's wild. And then when it rains, it's like it's an absolute catastrophe because it never rains there. So when it does, it's like the whole city is basically flooded. It's crazy.
But for the NFL, though, yeah, I completely agree with that. It's crazy. But I've learned when they don't predict it, it's probably going to happen. But for the NFL, something I don't know. I'm very interested to see how this pans out. I'll look at more futures when I go there. I know I made that last undefeated team I picked a couple teams for plus money, but I am looking forward to seeing like these rankings. Well, I've been watching a lot of analyst shows, seeing ranks and stuff. Bears have been getting a lot of respects, which is really cool to see in some aspects. And then, of course, I've seen these like little minor off-season additions. We don't know what's like going to necessarily happen with Vita Vea. The Niners, they're suffering injuries during training camp. Hopefully, some of them are just fake injuries, so people can get out of training camp. That happens a lot. They'll say like, "Oh, Mike Evans has a quad injury." In reality, he probably just traveling somewhere to meet with his family, or he's trying to move or something. I've seen stuff like that happen. But when it comes to overall, though, I think it's going to be a great season, and then I can look at more futures when we get closer. Not just futures in general that we're thinking of, but something I like to do is doing like certain players to get like this 1,000-yard seasons. That's always fun to do. But yeah, I'm looking forward to get closer to NFL, which I think the first game of the season is Niners, Rams in Australia, and I think that's in like the beginning of September. So in a couple weeks, I'll make some official stuff.
Yeah, same here. I'm waiting. Like I said, I like to wait for at least a couple of preseason games. And then once that's done, then I kind of get a better feel of what these teams are for the season, and then that's usually when I'll start looking into futures, and also when I'll start fantasy football. I'm gonna probably start that. I usually draft about the third week of preseason. Sometimes I'll wait till the fourth week just because I don't want any of my star players to get injured in preseason. I hate that. I've gotten burned by that before, so I tend to wait now till until after preseason is done before I do my draft. I kind of do it last minute. But speaking of the draft, speaking of fantasy football, Drew, first of all, do you do fantasy football at all, or is that something that you're into?
Yeah, I do fantasy football. I usually do with like my work stuff. I used to do a lot of leagues, but then it just like corrupt. It like stressed me out a little too much to a certain point. So I just stick with one league usually. Sometimes I'll do two, if it's like the right way. But I used to do like 5 to 7. And it was just like, yeah, sometimes I'd be rooting against my own team and stuff because I had different players and I would face this person. So yeah, I stick with like one or two now.
Yeah, okay. I asked you for a reason. Yeah, for me, I'm with you on that. I could probably do like two at the most. Anything more than that for me is like just a little bit overwhelming. Especially if I got money, skin in the game. It's hard for me to keep track of more than two teams. I don't know. I know some people can run with 4, 5, 6 different teams. Not me. I don't have the focus for that. But the reason I ask you is because I'm wondering if you have any sleeper picks. Maybe some guys that are off the radar that we could be looking at when we're talking about fantasy football. Of course, we don't really have their ADPs in front of us right now, so we wouldn't really be able to speak in terms of, officially where they're typically getting drafted, in those terms. But just players in general, like I'll give you a player right now that I was pretty high on until about a couple days ago. That was Luther Burden of the Bears. He's been absolutely outstanding in training camp for the Chicago Bears. He's been far and away the most impressive wide receiver on the roster, and I think he could have been in for a really, really big season. I still think he could, but he did have a groin injury. He had a groin injury over the weekend. Groin injuries are tough to come back from. There's no real timetable. There's really nothing you can do. It's just basically takes time for that to heal. So, with that being said, now I'm a little bit more off on him, but I mean, we are still a month away from the regular season starting. So hopefully, not just for his sake, but for fantasy football fans as well. Hopefully, he's healthy and ready to go by the start of the regular season. But I really like everything about Luther Burden. I think he's definitely somebody you guys are going to want to stash, and he could, in my opinion, end up being a top 5 wide receiver by the end of the season. I really, really think he has everything, all the tools. He can run every route. He's explosive. He has everything he needs to be a top wide receiver. And of course, in Ben Johnson's offense, any wide receiver is likely to feast. And I think he could be the Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Bears this season. I think from what I'm hearing, reports on him are very, very high, and he's looking like he's going to take a step ahead of maybe even Roma Dunze, which of course is a great receiver in himself. So Bears offense in general, people are talking about the Lions offense. You want players from them. You want players from the Rams offense. You want players from the Cowboys offense. I think you want players from the Bears offense too, because I think a lot of those guys are going to eat. Of course, Colston Loveland was a top tight end in fantasy football last season. You still got Colt Kmet hanging around there. You've got DeAndre Swift, who they use him a lot like they used Jameer Gibbs in Detroit. So a lot of talented players on the Bears offensive side, of course. But specifically in terms of fantasy football, I was really looking at Luther Burden as somebody that people might be sleeping on. You might get him at a good price, maybe a draft and stash, and see what happens with him. But any thoughts from you, Drew? Any players that you have in mind? Maybe from your 49ers or maybe from another team. And one more thing I'll say too is the Cowboys offense. I know we have some people in here, Stern, they hate the Cowboys, but look, that offense is an air raid offense, and that they're going to put up points and they're going to put up numbers in fantasy football. So anytime you can get any Cowboys offensive players on your fantasy football team, you got to try to get as many of them as you can. Dak, maybe not the greatest postseason player, but he is a regular season stat stuffer, and that's what we love to see in fantasy football. But yeah, Drew, any thoughts from you on any players that we could be looking at maybe under the radar for fantasy football?
Yeah, I have three. None for the Niners. The only reason I say that for the Niners is Shanahan's a weird guy to where he likes to spread the ball around. I know a lot of fantasy owners are frustrated by that aspect, and Purdy will like spread it around. But when George Kittle's on the field, he's never a bad option because Purdy loves going to him in the red zone. I mean, who doesn't love a 6'4", 200 plus pound beast go to the red zone? Debo could be a sleeper. They could use him more with like rushing end rounds and stuff. But I have 3 top sleepers in my personal opinion when it comes to this. Is Tyler Shuck at quarter? I have one quarterback tight end. So Tyler Shuck, he broke out last year. He's a guy that he can run if he needs to, and he's going to have a bevy of weapons at the end of the day. If you look at it, of course, he has Chris Olave. He has the receiver they drafted, Jordan Tyson, and they also got, I believe, Travis Etienne Jr. as well too. So I think he's the guy to look out for. And then
That's such a great call, Drew. Sorry to interrupt you. That's such a great call. I think a lot of people sleep on him because he's on the Saints and nobody really expects anything from the Saints. But I'm right there with you. I think he could be in for a really surprising season. Great call.
I know I'm
oh
still,
yeah, for sure, yeah.
but can I give 2 or 3 players here?
Of course, it's your show.
Baker Mayfield, contract year, negotiations went south. He's paying him a 1-year contract. I think he's worth a little bit of a look. Just saying.
Absolutely.
Wanda Robinson for Tennessee. Don't have a lot of faith in Tennessee, but Wanda Robinson is flash. I think that he could do really well this year. And finally, in running back position, your DeAndre Swift or honestly Travis Etienne, but both of those players are in my top looks to kind of give us a steal somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd round, depending. But those are some looks. I will be back very soon with fantasy football information, though.
Yeah, the only thing sorry, Drew, to cut you off. I know you're in the middle of your take. Sorry, I just want to give one caveat or concern I have for DeAndre Swift is that one, he's older, right, and usually running backs they tend to fall off a cliff. They don't age gracefully, so I worry about that. And also with Kyle Monangai still there on the roster, I mean they drafted him for a reason, and I just wonder if at some point they're going to try to use him more. I mean he doesn't really have that much tread on the tire yet, so. That's the only thing I worry about. But otherwise, if Swift gets the same volume that he got last year, he's going to be in for a massive season just because of the way that Ben Johnson runs his offense. I mean, he loves some receiving running backs and some running backs who can break the hole and get some big yardage, which is exactly what DeAndre Swift can do. So TBD on that for me, but I'm with you on that. It just depends on the volume and hopefully Swift is able to stay healthy. But Drew, I'm sorry. Continue with who else are we looking at here for fantasy football sleepers.
Yeah, my other 2 picks will be rookies. I've always preached this when it comes to the draft. Is rookies are going to have the best value if you hit them right, and it's not even close because usually they go later. I never forget the year that I drafted Patrick Mahomes. I think in like the 13th round when he was like a rookie, but Kenyon Sadiq for the Jets. Usually you want to target rookies on really bad teams, regardless of how the quarterback is, because they target it. We saw it with Brock Bowers. He didn't necessarily have the best quarterback, but I think Kenyon Sadiq is going to be a tight end that's going to be heavily used in the Jets system, and he's not a bad guy to look at. And then the other one, I know you mentioned Rondo Robinson, but I really like Carnell Tate. He's a big body, and he's a Cam Ward. I think he's going to love him. And Carnell Tate, I feel like, will be a guy that will eventually turn into like 5 to 7 catches. He was the most pro-ready probably receiver overall in the draft, and he was in. We know how Ohio State receivers do; they are amazing. It's not like the Ohio State quarterbacks, and I think Carnell Tate is going to be targeted a lot by Cam Ward. And even if they don't win that many games, I think they have a new coaching staff that he can still put the numbers. So those are my 2 sleepers that are also, along with Tyler Shuck, that are rookies.
Yeah, phenomenal picks. Absolutely love all of those players. And I'm going to throw a what if question at you here. So let's say you're in your fantasy football draft. You need a tight end, right? And you've got, don't ask how this happens, but you've got Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, both on the board. Who are you taking?
Oh, Trey McBride, and I don't think it's particularly close. I don't like Brock Bowers is amazing, and I love him, and I think he could possibly be a better tight end than Trey McBride. But is when it comes to the Cardinals, they rely on Trey McBride so much to where I think they don't have as good as receivers around them as like the Raiders do. And Mendoza likes to usually like target his receivers, and so does Kirk Cousins, whoever ends up starting at batter. But I would say for Carson Beck, if Carson Beck starts 100%, he's basically Trey McBride is 100% as one of the top receiving tight ends in the league. I know Brock Bowers is, but there will be times when Brock Bowers goes without certain catches in the game because they're not targeting when they should in that case. But you can't go into a game without seeing Trey McBride usually targeted. My wife is a big Cardinals fan, and when she watches it, she's like, you better, all the fans say you better give like Trey McBride at least 5+ catches. So I would say Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, and he might be the number one fantasy guy, and Brock Bowers might be the number two. No disrespect to Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking 1A and 1B really with both of these guys. I mean, they're pretty close in terms of their talent level, but I'm right there with you. I think you're looking at the Cardinals offense. First of all, Jacoby Brissett loves him some tight end. Wait, that might have sounded a little weird. Tight end
You're good.
football players. Tight end position. Oh, God, it's even worse. Never mind. He loves him some TE.
TEs.
And
I'm on the Bauer side of that argument, by the way.
all right. With your distorted voice, explain that, please.
Yes, Trey McBride is probably the volume giver on Cardinals, but I don't have as much offense on. I don't have as much confidence in their offense as a whole. I much rather put money on Lobbies. I think that they're going to have a brighter outlook this year.
Got it. What I heard was a beep, bop, boop. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. No, it sounds good, dude. I'm just giving you crap. All right, cool. Yeah, no, I look, like I said, you're pulling apples to apples with these two. So, but actually, one more thing I want to touch on here, and I know we're coming up against the 11:30 mark here, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. But one final thought I have is for Stern and his Giants. And the offensive players there, of course, Jackson Dart, right? You got Malik Neighbors, you've got Scadaboo's out, right? But you got some pieces there offensively. One thing I would say, be careful taking Giants offensive players. Why do I say that? They have the worst offensive coordinator in the National Football League in Matt Nagy. I know him very close and personal here as he destroyed our Bears for 4 seasons and made no improvements to the offense in 4 years. One of the worst offensive play calls I've ever seen. Don't know why he's getting another shot at being an offensive coordinator, even a head or any type of coordinator position really in the NFL. He just there's enough of a proof of concept here that he just doesn't have it. And I worry about the Giants' offense actually regressing. I think it's only a matter of time before he's fired. I'd be interested to see if he ends up being fired midseason. But I would just be very cautious because Matt Nagy tends to ruin offensive teams. So, and then if you talk about fantasy football, he doesn't get the most out of these guys. They don't put up a lot of points in fantasy football. So be careful. Be careful taking Giants players. I know it's enticing. I know a lot of people are really high on Jackson Dart because of his mobility and what he showed last year, but that was under a different offensive coordinator, different scheme altogether. So that's all. Just a little caveat there. Stern, again, I'll ask you for your robot opinion on that.
I unfortunately don't disagree. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, very good. All right, cool. Glad to see we're on the same page on something NFL related here. Hopefully, I can get you on the Bear side of things before the season starts, but not likely. I don't know. How about them Cowboys? No, nope, not going there either. Okay.
That would be very surprising.
I'd say very unlikely, but that's all right. That's what makes the NFL great is we all have our teams that we root for, and it makes the passion of the rivalries that much more fun. But all right, I think that's gonna do it for today. Drew, any final thoughts here before we recap our plays?
No, did we want to do a quick question of the day? I don't know.
Oh yeah, if you got one for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had one in mind.
Oh no, that's why I was gonna skip it. But if you got one, we can go for it. Otherwise,
I can do a quick like possibly yes or no answer one. What was it? Oh, I actually I do have one because we touched on kind of like the fantasy aspects of things. Actually, I think this is a great question. Actually, if you are in a fantasy draft, of course we're assuming snakes. Snakes the only fair pick to pick at. I think that's a good question.
Sorry, Drew, you broke up when you said the great question. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear it. I'm sure it was a really great question, but can you repeat it?
It was so great. But anyways, I was saying if you could pick one purposes, if you could pick one spot to draft, and assuming it's a snake draft, what's your favorite spot to draft in fantasy? Because I know some people prefer the 10-10, you know, back to back or 12, 12. What do you love to draft at?
I love this question, Drew. Such a great question. You're right; it is a really great question. For me, I hate getting the early picks. Too much pressure. I feel like there's just I don't I want the decision to be made easier for me, right? I don't want to sit there with the number one or number two pick and sit here and say, oh my god, like what if I pick the wrong player because they're all so good. I'm kind of picking like from straws here, and like I'm just kind of hoping that the player I get is going to live up to expectations. I always prefer, honestly, to be the last pick. I love getting like back to back picks. I feel like there's more value in that. Like you can get, pretty good value or players, I would say, towards the end of the pick and or the end of the round and the beginning of the next round. Like I just find it a little bit easier to draft that way. Like I said, I feel like there's just too many great players in the league when you're drafting, first, second, third, top five, whatever. Too much pressure, man. I don't like it. No, I'd rather be at the end of the snake here and get the back to back if I can, or as close to the back to back as possible. What about you, Drew?
Yeah, I would say for me, I if I do back to back, it would have to be 12 because I wouldn't want a one back to back because I think one's too much like pressure. One is only good if it's like an overwhelming person. It used to be like that back in the day, but now there's so many good running backs, and I think nowadays if you're going 12 team leagues, I think the best overall pick, so you're not waiting as much, and then you're able to still pick a top tier person is 5. I like 5 a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Stern, you?
It's 12-man draft. I prefer 8. I think 8 is the position where you're still getting probably a top 6 pick. Ideally, you basically get two people in the first round. That's kind of like the put my hat on, and definitely in most leagues I'm not seeing a wide receiver. Just give me as many points possible. But you're talking about potential at that point.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Wow, I've never heard such just a short response from you, Stern. I wonder why that is. I just gotta keep giving you crap. All right. With that being said, I think that's gonna do it. Drew, what was the robot's name in Futurama? By the way, do you know?
Ender.
Bender.
Bender. Thank you.
Oh,
All right.
Bender.
Cool. I'm
My
gonna
bad.
use. Okay.
Bender.
Thanks. Thanks. All right.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Don't worry. That'll be coming soon. All right. Drew, you want to recap your plays, and then I'll recap mine, and I'll get us out of here.
yeah, for sure. I have Trevor Rogers over 17.5 outs at minus 149, and then I have let's see real quick. It's that Miami, Florida for a future guys is a Florida Texas Tech combo to win conference championship 2 leg plus 238. We won't know if it cashes until later, but I would.
Awesome. Love it. And then Stern, do you want to go ahead and recap your one play real quick?
First, team total over 3.5 minus 115.
All right, and in case you couldn't hear him, he said Brewers team total over 3.5, minus 115. And then for me, guys, we're looking at the Netherlands Eerste Divisie today. Give me Young PSV Volendam over 3 goals at minus 125. I'm also looking at Young AZ Alkmaar Eindhoven over 3 goals at minus 140. We're looking at Levski Sofia draw no bet in the Champions League qualifiers. This is going to be on Tuesday morning. Levski Sofia draw no bet at minus 105. Same thing Tuesday morning Champions League qualifiers. Bodo Glimt and Union Saint Gilloise over 3 goals at minus 135. Then I have two futures plays here for you guys in the England Championship Division. We're looking at West Ham to win the England Championship. You're going to get that at plus 175 over at Hard Rock. And then we're looking at the Wolverhampton Wolves to be promoted from the championship. That comes in at plus 162. You can get that one at Bet365. That's going to do it for us today, guys. This has been the Monday edition of the Only Bets Sports Podcast. For Dudaluki, Bender, I am the Prince of Picks. We'll be back again tomorrow live at 11:30 a.m. Eastern at Only Bets Podcast over on Twitter/X. Have a great afternoon. Let's cash out these tickets, and we will talk to you all soon. Beep, bop, boop, later.